Beautiful lady up here speaking to you. Okay. Welcome, Katherine Albrecht, please.
Thank you. I will do that.
Excuse me, I'll get you this stuff here.
All right, and my remote. Let me just make sure I got my act together here. How do we kick it up?
Right there.
There we go.
You're going to use a lot.
Okay.
Just put that on.
I gotcha. Good morning. What a beautiful group. It's great to see you guys. I'm Dr. Katherine Albrecht, and if you're not familiar with my work, I guess I've kind of been known as the RFID lady. I first found out about RFID back in 2002, and I've spent the last probably 7 years of my life researching it, telling people about it, sounding the alarm about it, and cautioning people about it. But what is less well known about me is that I come at this from a Christian perspective. Back in 1999, when I founded Caspian Consumer Privacy, the group that I've run now, I guess, 10 years, to alert people about the dangers of supermarket frequent shopper cards, the Safeway cards and the Kroger cards that people carry in their wallets, that are used to make detailed records of everything that you purchase and essentially serve as a numbered card to buy food. Very problematic. When I first started that, I started that because of something that had happened to me many years before. When I was a little girl in the Midwest at the age of 8 years old, and my grandmother sat me down after we'd been grocery shopping, so you can tell my interest in grocery stores there, and she said, "Kathy," and back then I wasn't Dr. Katherine Albrecht, I was just Kathy, and she said, "I got something really important I want to tell you. There's going to come a time when people will not be able to buy or sell unless they have a mark on their right hand or their forehead. And we don't know when it's going to happen, we don't know how it's going to happen, but one thing we know for sure, it's in the Bible, and if it's in the Bible, it will happen." And she said, "And I want you to promise me that you will never take that mark. And I want you to promise me that you will sit your own children and grandchildren down and have this same talk with them." So I made those promises, a little farmhouse in the Midwest. My grandfather was actually a mink rancher, so we were kind of out in the middle of the country. And as I'm looking around the kitchen, we had just been grocery shopping at a Kroger. Ironically, that's actually where I started my campaign against supermarket cards, years and years later. But as we were unpacking the groceries in that little farmhouse kitchen, I said to my grandmother, "You mean people won't be able to buy or sell anything, like even groceries?" And she said, "Especially groceries, because if they don't sign up and take the mark of the beast, they'll starve." So in that, 30 plus years ago, in that little farmhouse in Ohio, 1970s, I looked around and I said, how is that possible? I had, at that time in my life, never seen a credit card. I had never seen a computer. Computers took up entire city blocks. They certainly weren't in supermarkets, for heaven's sakes. They certainly weren't every place you would go to buy and sell. There couldn't possibly be a computer there. That didn't occur to me. I couldn't even imagine how you could identify everybody on the planet, great and small, rich and poor, free and bond, or enslaved or imprisoned, as the Bible describes. Much less could I imagine a way that you could get every single place where things are bought and sold on board with something like that. So my little 8-year-old brain was kind of whirring away, and I thought about this and thought about it. And I said a couple of things. I said, first of all, I absolutely will never take that mark myself. But something else. If it's not thousands and thousands of years from now, I'll pass it on to my kids and their descendants, and someday, way, way in the future when this happens, then hopefully my descendants will know. But if it starts happening in my lifetime, I'm going to pick up that Bible, and I'm going to read it, and I'm going to know that what's in it is absolutely true. Because from my vantage point in the 1970s, the chances of any of that coming together were so slim, it would have been as though somebody had told me, I don't know, some Aztec prophecy, when a purple flower fills half the sky, it means to pull out these scriptures and read them. You'd go, well, that's never going to happen. So that's kind of the perspective that I had. If that occurs, then I'm going to take this real seriously. And I have to say that experience at the age of 8 years old, my family went on to live in Los Angeles. I've gone to Harvard, I've been in lots of liberal institutions. I've certainly not lived a life that would cause a person to become a devout, committed, Bible-believing, born-again Christian, I'll say that. Had it not been for my grandmother sitting me down in that farmhouse and having that conversation with me at that time, I doubt I would be saved today. All right. With that background, two things I want to let you know. I'm going to do a presentation. I want to tell you why we are so much closer now to the mark of the beast than we were 2 years ago when I last spoke at this event. I also want to tell you what I'm doing about it. As a tribute to my own grandmother, Evelyn Muriel Woodall, who was one of my absolute idols as a child. I mean, she practically raised me while my mother was in school, and I loved her dearly. She passed on the year after she gave me that warning. So I want to mention that to all of you, because I see that there are probably a lot of grandparents in the room right now. You may not have a lot of time. You may not be here next year. And I certainly, by the grace of God, hope that you are. But if you have grandchildren, you have children, you need to be telling them this information now. Now, I've gone on to get a doctorate in education from Harvard University. I've taught school. I do a lot of educational consulting. I work with a lot of young people. And I can tell you there's a very disturbing trend that I've seen among kids, 14, 15, 16, 17. You talk to them about the mark of the beast, and they'll say, oh, yeah, that's that song by so-and-so. Oh, yeah, that's the 666 in that Black Sabbath song or whatever it might be. But you say, do you know what that is in the Bible? And some of these kids, do I need to turn this one off? I don't know why I'm echoing. Some of these kids have gone to Sunday school all their lives. They've gone to vacation Bible school in the summer. They have attended church every Sunday, and no one has ever sat them down and talked to them about the mark of the beast. I'm telling you, the time that we are living in, if we are not doing that actively with this young generation, there's going to be nobody else to do it. Madison Avenue is not going to do it through the television. Hollywood is not going to do it through the movies, and to the extent they do, they're going to lie to your kids and tell them the wrong thing. And the churches aren't doing it. Do you know there's an article out there, those of you who research online, look it up. It's called Megachurch, Megatech. Megachurch, Megatech is in megatechnology. And in this article, it actually opened up and talked about sort of reaching forward your hand and pressing it to a fingerprint reader to get into Sunday school. There are churches across this country. Hang on. Can you hear me? All right. There are churches across this country, the kind of churches that have 5,000 and 10,000 people coming in on a Sunday, that find their numbers so enormous that they've got to start treating the children going into the Sunday school like inventory. And they're actually installing fingerprint readers so that those kids can be more easily processed into Sunday school. Churches, mind you. These are churches. This is not schools. This is not the Department of Immigration. This is not Customs or Border or Homeland Security. These are Christian churches on our own soil in our own country who understand so little about what the prophetic books of the Bible tell us about this time we're living in right now, that they are using automated fingerprint readers to get kids into Sunday school. I spoke, and we'll be talking about this in just a moment, when I flew down to Florida to protest the microchip implants that they were putting into Altzheimers patients. I said, you know, Lord, I got to do something about this. I cannot allow these people to be implanted with these chips, because these are people who have Alzheimer's. They have no ability to say no. They don't even understand what's being done to them. These are people in a home who have to have constant care because they don't understand their own surroundings. So we flew down there, and as we were planning this event, and I'll show you some pictures of it in a minute, but as we were planning this event, I said, well, this needs to be not just a protest like my usual protest against RFID. This has serious spiritual implications. This needs to be a prayer vigil. So we got on the phone, and we called up all the churches in West Palm Beach, Florida, myself and a volunteer. We got a phone book. And we called all the Baptist churches, and we called all the Pentecostal churches, and we called all of the congregational churches, and we went through the list, and we called them all. Not one single church was willing to send a pastor to support us in that prayer vigil or to say a prayer at our event. Not one. Now, I'll tell you, when that phone rang, ring, 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 hi, my name's Dr. Katherine Albrecht. I'm a researcher in RFID microchips. I'm concerned. We need to, do something about this. Can we maybe have a pastor, an associate pastor, a deacon, somebody who can join us and just lead us in prayer? And every phone call went pretty much like this, one of two things. Either they said, well, what are you protesting? Well, they're putting microchip implants into Alzheimer's patients. Well, why are they doing that? Well, they're saying they're doing it so they can't wander away and get lost from the facility. Well, that's a good thing, don't you think? That was response number one. I had so many church secretaries tell me that that was a very good idea, and why would I object to that? If I didn't get that response, the other response I got was, well, why are you worried about that? Don't you know the rapture's just going to take us all away before that happens? What kind of lack of faith are you suffering from, lady? For real. Now, let me tell you about the grace of God through all of this. This is a beautiful testimony I want to share with you. So after all these phone calls, you can imagine I'm getting a little discouraged. Lord, do you not want me to go? Am I just alone here? You know those feelings you get. You're like, Lord, please, please, the next phone call, let it be this one. No answer. So I stepped out on faith, and I said, well, if I have to, I'll just go down there to Florida, and I'll just lead the prayer myself. If it comes down to it, I'll just say the prayer myself. I'll just do it, Lord, if that's what you want. So we get out there, fly down, we meet in a restaurant, we get our signs, we're interviewed by the Associated Press, we got the television out there, we're talking about all the problems with this, and then we start our march, 1 mile to this facility, where we're going to stand out in front where they're chipping these people. We're walking down the street, we're marching along, there's a long crowd of us, we got our signs up, and a truck pulls up alongside me. Window rolls down, it's a gentleman maybe in his 50s. He says, I couldn't help but notice your signs. I totally support what you're doing. I'm a pastor. Is there any way I can help you? So the Lord sent us a pastor as we stepped out in faith, walking to that event. It was awesome. So I tell you that story because I'm about to jump into some stuff that's pretty scary. And I want you to know, I was a little bit scared walking down that street, realizing that I was going to have to say a prayer outside of this facility that maybe I wasn't qualified or ready to do. So there are going to be moments that we're going to feel that same way in the coming months, in the coming years, as this battle heats up. And this is a battle, and it's a hardcore spiritual battle, and we all feel it. As this battle heats up, I want you to remember that story when I'm there on my knees going, Lord, please let it be the next phone call. Please let it be the next church. If the congregational churches won't do it, maybe it'll be a Episcopalian church. I'll try anybody. Lord, please let one of these people respond to me. And I felt really alone. And there's going to be times we're all going to feel that. And that is part of that walk in faith. And when you step out on faith, you know you're doing the right thing, then He always comes through for you. Sometimes He'll let you go right to that last moment, but He always comes through. Amen indeed. All right. That being said, now let me scare you just a little bit, but I want you to realize you've always got the Lord holding your hand through the whole thing. Here we go. Okay, let's talk about global ID because it's the step that we're moving into. Last time I was here, I talked about RFID generally in products and shoes and clothing. Now I want to talk about it hardcore in your wallet and potentially being mandated by the government. As of June 1st of this year, American citizens can no longer leave their country and return without an RFID identity document. You must have a chip to get back into your own country right now, as of about 2 months ago. What does that mean? That means that as you're leaving the country, you can get out of the country, you can just use your passport, but when you try to get back in, you've got to either have, well, there's your new U.S. passport. As of 2005, the end of 2005, they all have an RFID tag in the cover. Now, it used to be that you could just drive back across the border from Canada or Mexico with your driver's license. You could just say, I'm an American citizen, show them your license so you could get back in. They're no longer accepting that. There's something called the Western Hemisphere Travel Initiative that they've put in place. It's part of one of these big global multinational agreements. And it says that all travel from the Caribbean, Canada, or Mexico has to have one of these RFID tagged passports or, oops, hang on. What am I doing wrong? There we go. Oh, and I got to share this with you. When they came out with these new chipped passports, page 20 of the new chipped passport has this quote in it. You can't see it very well. It's up there on the top. Every page has a little quote. It says, is our world gone? We say farewell. Is a new world coming? We welcome it, and we will bend it to the hopes of man. That's a quote. I don't know how hard they had to dig to find that one, but that's from Lyndon B. Johnson. And that's on page 20 of the brand new passport. So they're not even joking. Our world is gone, according to these folks. Here's your next bit of evidence. Passport cards. So if you don't want to get a full-fledged passport, I think they cost like $75. You can get them expedited. They're not cheap. They take some time. You've got to apply with the State Department. You've got to provide lots of documentation. The smaller alternative now is called a pass card, or an e-passport. It's a little card size of a driver's license, fits right in your wallet, but it has an RFID tag and an antenna in it. That means it can be read remotely from 20 or 30 feet away, right through your wallet, your pocket, your purse, or your backpack, by anybody with a reader device. And when I say anybody with a reader device, I'm not talking Homeland Security and State Department and Border Control. I'm talking employees at Walmart.